the difference between a relationship and a contact. And a lot of us out there have, thousands and thousands, or possibly even 50,000 or 100,000 plus contacts in our database. How do we sort which one should go to Happy Grasshopper and get your messaging? And within that, for instance, Follow Up Boss or one of the other types of CRMs, is there a way to do that where it's tagged so Happy Grasshopper through the API knows to pull it? Be awesome. All right. So we are live on Facebook now as well. So thank you so much for everybody that's joining. I am absolutely honored, and it is a total pleasure to introduce Dan Stewart of Happy Grasshopper. Dan is going to blow our minds today. I know it. I've met with Dan before, and he really makes you put your thinking cap on, which is what I'm super excited about with what he's doing today. He's going to be asking some questions to make you think about 2022 in a different perspective on what you're doing with your business and how you're going to grow. So he's got his series, the Power Up Right series, and techniques that he's going to be using today. So Dan, thank you. And and by the way, I'm Alex Rivlin in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Very cool. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate the intro. And hi, everybody. Hi, Happy New Year. Hello. Hi. I mean, are we all a little bit worn out on the sort of, it's the new year, it's time to get your shit straight, right? It's time to get your goals and lose that weight and save that money. It's like every single year, we all feel this pressure that now it's time to focus. And somehow miraculously, we're supposed to be a totally different human being than we were all those other years when we set some New Year's resolutions and then quickly abandon them, right? That is not a recipe for long-term success. It's certainly not a recipe for long-term happiness. So we need a new model. We need a new framework if we're going to get better results in 2022 than we've had in the past. And to create that framework, I'm going to share with you what I've learned in my 22-year career as an entrepreneur. So many of you know me. I founded a company in 2010 called Happy Grasshopper. We serve about 12,000 agents across the US and Canada. We're currently nurturing around 26 million contacts. Prior to that, I owned and exited a software company. Prior to that, I was in the geotechnical contracting industry. I've had a wide and varied career that's had some surprisingly high peaks and some disastrously low pitfalls. And I share that with you because life is hard, right? That is true. And life is awesome. That is also true. And oftentimes what we experience is up to us based on what we decide to see is available for us, okay? Now, I have to warn you, I am not the woo-woo guy, right? We're not gonna gaze at our navels and align our chakras. And if you're great at that stuff, great. I am an entrepreneur. I am goal-driven. I believe in continuing to improve throughout the course of my life because not continuing to improve sucks. And I don't wanna suck. I want life to be fun. I want it to feel like a gift. So if that sounds like fun, you are in the right place. If that does not sound like fun, you're wrong. It's fun. I promise it is. So are you ready to have some fun, Alex?
Let's have some fun.
I'm ready. Absolutely. So I'm going to share.
I'm going to organize my chakra first, though.
Yes, align that chakra. Get it done. So I'm going to share my iPad screen with you. And this is a working session. So expect to get involved, expect to take some notes and write some things down. And to make that easier for you, you can get this deck that I'm going to be working from by sending an email to yes@happygrasshopper.com. Yes@happygrasshopper.com. So any email you send, our system's going to automatically reply with this deck, so you'll be able to follow along. And with that said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to start having fun. You're still up for that, Alex?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right. So here we go. Now, if some of you could confirm in the chat for me that you are seeing the slide deck on your screen, has that popped up for you, Alex?
I do. Yes, I see it.
All right, awesome. So we have got to acknowledge something called the cycle of suck. This is what most people do this time of year. Some of us have set some resolutions, and the date is January 18th this year, by which most people, over 80%, will have already abandoned their resolutions. Okay, so think about that, right? We get excited, we go to an event, we take a class, we see something awesome on LabCoatAgents, and we're like, ooh, I want to learn this, I want to do it. So we start with all these intentions, and it feels great to have these intentions. And then we take those intentions, we turn them into some actions, and then inevitably we encounter some pain. Right? That is normal. Whether you're losing weight or saving money or recruiting agents or starting a new hobby, you're learning to ride a unicycle or juggle or whatever it might be, it's unrealistic for you not to expect to encounter some pain. Right? Now, sadly, this is where most people stop. And then they repeat the cycle. Something else happens. They develop these new intentions, they take more actions, they find more pain, and they stop. And we have got to break that cycle. That is step one, is breaking this cycle. And the first way to do it, honestly, is just to become aware that it is a cycle. Because, this has just felt like something that was your fault until somebody comes along and says, hey, wait a minute, that's just the way things are. That's just life. That's just normal. So now that we know it's not your failure, it's just a condition of being human, that frees us to walk a different path. And I call this the path of mastery. So on this path, we're going to narrow our focus. We're not going to do everything that we could do. We're going to narrow the focus to things we actually have control over. Then we're going to take measured actions. And as our reward, we could expect predictable results. That's how it works. And those of you who've attended sessions I've done previously, this is something I've been teaching for years and years and years because it works. And yet what I haven't done is really lay out how to put this into practice so that you can benefit from it. And that's what we're going to do today. And again, just a little bit of my background. I'm not putting these things here to impress you. I'm putting these things here to impress upon you that if I'm capable of achieving these things, you certainly are. Like, there's absolutely nothing special about me or my background other than my willingness perhaps to put myself out there. Perhaps maybe I'm more willing to try and fail than other people are. But, I promise you that if you put yourself out there, if you actually do what I'm sharing with you today, whatever your goals are, you're going to be able to find the path to achieve them. Now, as Alex mentioned, I'm the founder of Happy Grasshopper, and Happy Grasshopper has built a really great service for LabCoatAgents called LCA Nurture. Jake is going to be dropping some information about that service in the chat here for you. I would encourage everyone here to take a look, because the fastest way to increase your GCI is your past clients and sphere. And LCA Nurture is set up to help you find transactions in your past clients and sphere. So I'll encourage you to take a look. And that concludes the promotional proportion presentation for today's event, right? So boom, done. Now we get back to the path of mastery. There's 4 steps on this path. The first one is developing self-awareness. Then we need to be intentional, right? It's easy to have intentions. It's a little less easy to actually be intentional. So we're going to walk through how to do this. We're going to have a brief chat about metrics. I'm not going to boil the ocean with math here for you today. Don't be worried about that. And then we're going to talk about how we need to adjust our course as we walk this path together. So here we go. Like, develop self-awareness. How the heck do we do that? We start by taking that finger that we point out at the world sometimes when when we feel like the world is turned against us, right? When things don't work out the way we want it to work, it's easy to sometimes point outward. But the real growth comes when we point that finger inward and we take a chance to really look at what it is that we're accountable and responsible for. And so these three questions are critical for that personal growth. And, I'd like to invite you to go ahead and share in the chat your answers to these questions as Alex and I talk our way through them. So, what occurs to you when you see that first question, Alex? What did you do well this year?
So I run a team here in the Vegas area. And what I did well this year was really instill confidence, knowledge, and unlock my team's motivation. So I don't believe I could motivate somebody, but they could be motivated, but I unlock it by taking away certain fears. So basically I did well at being a mentor to my team members.
Okay. All right. I'll just jot those things down. And, what sorts of things come to mind when I ask you what you struggle with this past year?
I know that one too. That one's an easy one because I've been doing this introspection. I struggled with focusing on hiring. I need some staff members within my team because we are lacking in that area for support for myself and then support for team growth.
Okay, so what was your struggle there? Was it focusing on it? Was it time management? Was it not knowing how to do it or what you should do to create the result?
No, it was definitely taking the time or time blocking to actually, that's why I was saying focusing. So taking the time needed to vet resumes, interview, and go through the processes. I was just kind of hoping somebody would land in my lap and they never did.
Gotcha. Okay. And it's easy to do that, right? Because you've got a thriving team and there's always stuff that requires your attention. And, if we're going to be intentional, we have to say, you know what, I've booked an appointment with myself to do these things right now. And whatever comes or tries to interrupt that, I'm going to respond to it just as I would if I were in a listing presentation when that shows up. It's my commitment.
Well, and it's funny that you say, so Dan, where how should I say, where that took me is that I know that if I took the time to do that, it would have freed up so much more time throughout the year. And yet at the moment, it just feels so heavy. Yep. Oh boy, I have to stop and I have to do this and I have to really, and so I always want to hire that first person. I'm like, oh, good. Yeah, they seem cool. All right, come on in. Right. But meanwhile, you've got to vet, you've got to go through that process. And I just didn't take the time to go through that process. But in the end, it actually cost me a lot more by just focusing on kind of what needed rapid response instead of, okay, I can put that off and do that.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. Because, again, whether it's fitness or finances or business, like it's a very human thing. We want the abs, but we don't want to do the sit-ups, right? The sit-ups are not much fun. And yet we can't get to that end goal. Like we can't just wait around and hope the abs show up. We have to do the sit-ups if we want that outcome.
Absolutely. So Biz Stone, who is one of the co-founders of Twitter, he wrote a quote or said a quote years ago that I've kept with me. It's timing, perseverance, and 10 years of trying will eventually make you look like an overnight success.
Yes, it's so true. It's so true. I love that quote. Thank you. So are you comfortable sharing what you failed at this past year?
Absolutely. I failed at growing my team. I grew my team members. I didn't grow my team. And that was because I did not bring in the people that I needed to help and assist me with that.
Okay.
I planned on being at 20 team members. I'm at 5.
Okay.
My 5 are awesome, by the way, though, for anyone watching, any of my team members watching, best 5 team members ever.
Yeah. I mean, there's 2 ways to influence profitability of a team or a brokerage. It's headcount and it's production. And, your goal was growth and you focused on growing your people. So, that's not a failure by any stretch, but not getting to that 20 can certainly feel like failure.
Absolutely.
So, you've given us a couple of answers here, which is great from a conversational perspective. When I do this exercise, I end up with, multiple things for each one of these. And I very purposely try to make sure that I'm covering my professional life, my personal life. I think about my relationships with the key people in my life, my wife, my children. What did I do well this year in the relationship with my wife? Like, what did I fail at with her? It's important to focus that on those different areas, because living a happy life is so much about balance. If we have all our success in just one dimension, that's a lopsided wheel. It's not going to roll very well. So I will encourage each of you to come up with some long lists here. And then we're going to move into going a little deeper here. This is where we adjust course. And again, it's 3 questions that give us the key here. So, you talk about those things you did well. Well, ask yourself, how can I spend more time doing them? When I think about where I provided the most value to the world over the last 12 months, and I think about all the time that I spent doing anything but that, it feels like it was so expensive. It was so expensive. It was so costly not to focus on those things. And, I won't be the first person in your life who mentions the concept of leverage, whether it's a person or it's technology or it's a combination of that. It's key in creating that time to where we can really focus on our highest and best purpose. Now, often leverage is key for number 2 as well, right? Who can help me with the things I struggled with? I don't know, Alex, do you have a personal assistant or an admin?
I did, and I don't now. So that's
Yeah.
the issue with number 2 on the last slide.
Yep. I give my staff permission to schedule time on my calendar for me to work on things that are important. I have a moderately sized company. They're not hundreds of us, right? It may feel like it sometimes because my people are so awesome. But I do have weekly meetings that are company wide. And then I have one-on-ones with my key people throughout the organization. I can't manage everyone to the extent that they need support and management. So I have key people who are responsible for other people in the company. And those key people are able to just grab time on my calendar for what they need me to work on. It's something that I encourage them to do because it helps all of us move forward better. So that's one example of how I leverage some people on my staff to help me achieve these goals. So the third one, how can I never fail at what I failed at again? Right. So essentially we're asking ourselves, how can we do more of what we're great at? How can we get help for the things we struggle at? And how can we make sure we don't fail again in the same area we failed in previously? Right. So, Alex, I'm thinking about your situation here where, the failure that came to mind for you was growing your team. So, one of the ways that you might consider getting help with that would be for you and I to schedule a conversation to talk about what you can do to add those people. One of my great joys at Happy Grasshopper is helping teams and brokerages grow by attracting the right people to their organizations. So, I'd be happy to just have that conversation with you if you'd like to.
That would be great. And Dan, if you don't mind, I'll interject with a kind of a question/statement on this. What your thoughts are on this. Whenever I look at a question like question number 3, which I think is absolutely a great one, I've framed it in the sense of never failing at it again with the effort of going towards it, or never failing at it again because I've made a decision that it's not my priority. So I'm not going to make the effort towards it. So for instance, in my example, growing the team, if I decided, no, you know what? I like where I'm going. I'm going to grow production. I like the team as it is, and I've got other interests. I just got done writing a book. I'm doing this. I'm doing other thing. I'm speaking from stage. So that's a choice as well. From my perspective, is a way to never fail at it again is to never set that goal, because it's just not where I've learned now through self-introspection that it's not actually where my interests lie. What are your thoughts on that, Dan?
Yeah, I totally agree. If you're setting a goal that's not compelling you to take action towards it, there's some kind of internal blocker in place. And, oftentimes that internal block is because we're not certain really what we want. We've created a goal based on what we think we should want based on where we are in life. So sometimes just that introspection, again, really asking yourself what's important to you, and being certain in your goal. Because, whatever the challenge is, if you're really committed to the mission, you're never going to stop. You'll walk through fire, you'll climb mountains, you'll do whatever is required to achieve a mission you truly believe in. Where, you set a goal. It sounds to me like, I'm going to project here for a minute, so tell me I'm full of it if it sounds like I am. But, you set a goal last year to get to 20, and you found yourself focusing on the 5 awesome people you already have, right? So my suspicion is that the number 20 was just a number. Like it wasn't connected to how your life would be better or how your impact could scale. It may have just been about, well, I'd earn more. And, presumably having a successful team, you're paying your bills, right? So, beyond a certain point, that much more money just isn't compelling. So if we can connect reasons to it, it often is enough to get us to take action. Does that make sense?
It does. In my case, it was a little bit different. I'm looking at a number of people that I believe I can help instead of, we all know that real estate's a high attrition industry. So I knew that I could likely help about 20 people. So that was it. And to me, the money is always secondary. The money comes by actually executing on what we're doing and doing well. So that was the idea. But just, how to find those people, how to attract those people, how to show people what I'm doing, because when it comes to that, I'm not a salesperson.
Right.
I'm very much a salesperson, but I'm not selling somebody to come onto my team. I'm looking for people that are eager, hungry, humble, and just want to see their numbers elevate, which is what I've done. So it was attached to a degree. I knew going into it that I wanted to leverage and have somebody run that side of the business for me. And I just never brought that right person in.
Gotcha. Okay. Interesting. So it sounds to me like you looked at how much inventory you had available, right? I'm referring to your time, your hours in the day that are available to invest in helping those people as you grow. And you said, I think I could handle about 20. Yeah, interesting. There's no one right way to be successful, right? We all have to find our own path. And, along the way, we have to offer ourselves a bit of forgiveness too, because we're going to screw up. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to look back and go, holy crap, I spent that whole year. My goal was 20 and I'm still at 5. Well, that's all right. You've got a new year. It's time to, to really focus on what achieving that goal would allow you to create for yourselves and other people. Like making that impact on other people feels so wonderful. Personally, it motivates me more than a paycheck. Helping people is really what it's about. And, if we look at today's reality, this is really important because so much of the country is still in these unprecedented low inventory market conditions. That there's not signs that that's going to immediately evaporate or go away, right? So we've got to figure out how to exist in a reality where, buyer's agent competition for every listing is fierce. A lot of agents are working harder today than they've ever been required to work to have fewer contracts actually accepted. And, at the same time, every single person absolutely lives somewhere, right? So that means there's opportunity literally all around us. Every time we meet someone, that person very likely knows someone who's thinking of moving, right? So, Earlier I mentioned that the fastest way I know how to help someone increase their GCI is by focusing on the people that already know you, right? So, if you're listening to this and part of your goal for this year is to increase your GCI, please understand the value of those referrals through relationship, because, number one, the trust that whoever refers those people to you, it gets transferred along with them, right? So you're already in a prime position to win the opportunity. Two, that referred transaction is almost always closer. It's a nearer term transaction than that internet lead. An internet lead may be 18 months away from being ready to transact, but that referral is often, oh yeah, do you know somebody? Great, yeah, we need to sell. Okay, awesome. So, it moves much more quickly. So if I'm going to help you win to the extent you choose to in 2022, part of that is going to be by recognizing the opportunity that's really here. I believe for certain with every fiber of who I am that anything we want to achieve is best achieved through relationship. It just is. Like, Alex, you said a few minutes ago that you're looking for the right people, not just any people, right? But people who really fit, that you can build that relationship with. That is the richness of this life that we get to experience together. I know for certain, as a kid who was raised in an environment he didn't like, that if it weren't for people who cared about me that didn't have to, I wouldn't be here with you today. No matter what we want, no matter what we need, if we're able to ask for it, if we're able to start conversations about it, the universe has a way of making it available for us. So keep in mind that any relationship will fade if you fail to engage that person in conversation. We love our spouses. We love our children. If we don't talk to them, we don't stay in love, right? We don't get to. Conversation is critical. And as a side benefit, just exactly like you just shared, Alex, if you focus on the relationship, the sales come, right? Absolutely. As goal-oriented as I am, as much as I like to really break down exactly how many transactions I need to get to a specific income goal, if I'm really focused on what matters, the income always exceeds the expectation. It always does. So let's go a little bit deeper here. There's some magic math on the screen now. I told you I'd give you a taste of some metrics, but I wasn't going to drown you in math today. This number, the relationship ratio, it needs to be revised, quite frankly. Okay, so over 11 years now, we've been tracking all the messages we send. And, we comfortably can say that for every 100 relationships you have in your database, there's approximately 12 transactions per year there. We're seeing that those numbers are actually significantly higher. 12 to 25 transactions per year is possible through relationship based on the feedback that we're getting from our members. So, for clarity here, we have to talk about the difference between a contact and a relationship. Okay, let's imagine all the people in your database are walking around a grocery store with you. Who are the people who actually recognize you? Who are the people who say hello? Those are the folks you have a relationship with, where all those other people are just contacts. You have their data. It doesn't matter. It's literally no different than if you paid an ISA to scrape it off the internet. The number of contacts that you have is far less important than the number of relationships that you actually have. So, let's keep that in mind and really focus on that, because, whatever that goal is that we set for ourselves, and I'm going to shrink this just a bit so it all fits. Like, we can say this is an income goal, whatever that dollar amount is, there's some number of sales that we have to make to achieve it. And those sales come from some number of opportunities. The best opportunities, like, we've got two sources, right? We have leads and then we have referrals. I think everyone can agree they'd rather have a referral than another internet lead. So the best leads come from relationship. That's it. And relationships live in one place. That's conversation, right? And how do we start conversation? By asking questions. So, I told you I wasn't going to burn you with math, and I'm not. This is the simple number that you need to pay attention to. It's that relationship ratio, and it's 100 to 12, right? So you all have this worksheet. You can get it by emailing yes@happygrasshopper.com. Our system will just return this to you automatically. And you can go ahead and fill it out with your own answers. This whole structure that's been set up here is supported by LCA Nurture. What we've built is the system that resolves your answers to all these challenges. That the way to have more closings is to have more conversations. That's why you subscribe to so many services that send stuff, right? The challenge is, what do you say? And when do you say it? And for how long do you keep saying it? All those questions have been answered, and all of those answers are available for you inside your LCA Nurture account. Now, LCA Nurture consists of 41 touches per year. The emails are non-salesy, and they go one time every 3 weeks. Okay. Our testing says that's what gets the highest open rate and the lowest unsubscribe rate. So that's the right frequency for you to send those messages. Now, the text and the voicemail drop, these are like a 1-2 punch. So Alex, let's imagine your birthday is 7 days from today, and I were your real estate agent. I would want you to get a text from me that says, "Hey, Alex, it's Dan Stewart. Am I the first person to wish you a happy birthday this year?" Like, if you get that text from me, there's no chance you're not replying. So we're having a nice little interaction there. And better still, we're doing it a week before Facebook reminds you how old you are, right? The day of your birthday, you're getting swamped. Everybody's sending that message to you. We want to beat that rush by getting it out ahead of time. And then, of course, on your actual birthday, I'd want that friendly ringless voicemail drop to go out. So, hey, it's me, Dan Stewart. Just wanted to reach out and say, happy birthday. Hope you're awesome. I know we touched base last week. Would love to chat and just wish you a happy birthday. Give me a call, 727-533-5175. Like a simple message that I leave. I didn't use your name. I record it once, and then that message automatically goes out to your contacts on their birthday. Now, we use that same sort of 1-2 combo punch for multiple reasons. So transaction anniversaries. I talked about birthdays. We do quarterly lead harvesting messages. And then, of course, we also do holidays. So that accounts for the 12 text and 12 voicemail drop messages per year. The reason we say 6 to 12 is because you get to choose your holidays. Right?
I figured it was because you might not have the info, like the person's birthday.
It could be that. Social media is really good for that. And also using the system to get the information.
Yes.
Like, one of our friendly email messages, add a PS line that says, by the way, I just realized I don't have your birthday. When were you born? And, I'm not saying 100% of people will reply, of course. And yet you'll get enough replies where you can build that out. And better still, you'll have demonstrated to these contacts that you actually care about the relationship more than you do about the commission. All of that is supplemented with social media content and with handwritten cards. So I'm going to show you here. I'll just give you a quick look at the screen. This is a screenshot when you're logged into LCA Nurture. And all of these messages that you see on the screen, they're refreshed once every 2 weeks. So they're always about things that are happening now. And you get to rate the messages. So you might see some that you absolutely love. You might see some that you don't. And that's okay. If it's in this system, it's only there because our data says it's the kind of message that people will engage and respond to. That said, you should send the message that makes you smile the most. That's the right one to send for you. So let's talk about data here for a moment, because I think if we took a poll, a lot of people would say, email? Really? Like 2022, Dan, come on. And yet email is still incredibly effective. If you Google it, it has the highest ROI in all of marketing, which is astounding and yet also true. So let's talk about open rates. From LCA Nurture, we're averaging over 99% deliverability, and we're seeing a 38.2% open rate. Now, Constant Contact reports about 14% for real estate. MailChimp, it varies between about 18 and 22%. So, a 38.2% open rate is outstanding. And the way we're able to create that result is because we've spent so much time running tests like this. So, when emojis were first available in email a few years back, we thought, ooh, this could really influence open rates. Let's test it. And what we've seen every time we run the test is that an emoji is neutral. This message does not get opened more frequently than this message. So the only difference in the subject line is use of the emoji. The thing that does produce the highest impact on open rates is a question mark. So if you find ways to just add a question mark to your subject line, you'll see that people open it more frequently. That is our recommendation for you to get better open rates. Now, another test we've run is the difference between HTML email and just a text-based email that looks like you sat down to write it yourself. Now, the message on the left is a quality message. It's nicely designed. It looks beautiful. Even the message inside is a perfectly fine message. The issue with it is that we've all got this filter in our brains. We all check our inbox the same way. We're there to figure out what we need to pay attention to. And if it looks like marketing, it's safe to ignore. So you'll find you get a better response with the message on the right. I'm going to show you the data here. That text-based email that I just showed you, there's a 46% open rate. And the thing that's beautiful here is it was sent to strangers. 46% open rate for people who don't even know the sender. That's strong, right? So email is still great if you're using it the right way. Now, this is an example of an HTML email message that we actually use at Happy Grasshopper. There is a time and a place for this sort of message. You may have a need to send HTML messaging where you need to communicate things to a group of people, and yet you don't want to generate a bunch of replies from those people. It's about informing them, okay? So, if you're using HTML for some things you're sending, it's totally fine. I'm not saying you have to change everything. It's just you're going to get much more conversation started when you use text-based messaging. So never forget my quote here. And my stupid face, don't forget that either. If it looks like marketing, it's safe to ignore. It truly is. It's just the way it works. So content optimization. I believe in leveraging everything that's potentially available that can make a positive impact for our members. Some of that, excuse me, is just looking at our own data set and understanding what it means. Which types of messages are open most, which subject lines, what style of content. Another part, a very important part of it, is tone. So we've been using the Google Natural Language AI to measure our content. So every message we've ever sent, we're classifying it using this AI, and it lets us know things like tone and sentiment. Like every now and then I'll talk to someone who, like maybe they were a journalist or an English teacher, or maybe they're married to one. And they will want to make sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed and everything is grammatically correct and written in the Chicago style, right? That is not the best way to create the results that you're looking for with your content choices. So using a tool like this, it helps us make sure that the messaging we're loading into your account is really set up to help you win. Now, here's an example of that sort of message. The subject line, Blockbuster finally pivots. That's a curiosity creating subject line. Like, isn't Blockbuster dead? You have to wonder that when you read that subject line.
That one store that's left.
And then we go a little deeper, right? The message reads, "Hi, Alex, did you see this? Blockbuster's last store is now an Airbnb rental." And there's a link to the article. They've set it up with 90s furniture, TV, VCR, and all the movies you can watch for $4 per night. And of course, there's a picture of the Blockbuster Airbnb. And it continues, "And call me crazy, but I actually love this. It kind of makes me wish they'd paid more attention to Netflix and pivoted sooner." Speaking of real estate changes, do you know anyone who's thinking of moving, or even someone we could convince to move if they got enough money for their home? Okay. So I've broken this down so you can understand the elements that are important here. If you choose to create content like this on your own, when you're choosing a topic, look for subjects that most people will associate positive feelings with, and find a way to teach them something or surprise them something or create interest with something. So we all know Blockbuster, but we don't all know that their last store is now an Airbnb. And then, as we're closing the message, we want to include a call to conversation that turns the conversation back to real estate. All of these little tweaks, all this AI, all of these content choices, that's what we've been studying here for the past 11 years. And we call that our queen bee role here, because it is the most important thing we do in our company, is figure out how to create content that works. Because believe it, in 2022, everything sends content. Samsung literally makes a refrigerator that can text you. You can ask your fridge if you're out of milk, and it will text you a picture of what's inside your fridge. It is stupid easy to send a message today. And it's also really challenging to send a message that people will engage with. So, we like to report the results of this. And here's the bottom of that HTML email I showed you earlier. We teach you about which were the messages that were most popular versus which were the messages that were most engaged with, right? It's important to understand that. That creates a teachable moment where maybe you go, maybe the way I've been doing it isn't the way I should continue to do it. Right? So all of these features are all packed into your LCA Nurture account. And to take advantage of that, to open your own account, you just have to go to happygrasshopper.com/meet LCA Nurture. And I'm guessing Jake has dropped that in the chat here. I can't see the chat right now. Now, from a pricing perspective, this service, all 41 touches per year, it's just $47 to start and $470 for the year. So, when we talk about the ROI that's possible from this, average commission per side, it gets kind of stupid kind of quick, right? If you can find 12 transactions per year from just 100 people, look at your average commission per transaction. I mean, I don't know how to turn a few dollars into a lot more dollars any more efficiently. So here's the link on the screen. That's where you go to take advantage of that. And I know it's in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and pull the chat up now.
Yeah, it is in the chat. It is in the chat there, Dan. And we do have a question in the chat too.
Sure.
I'm scanning it the whole time. So Carla asked, how does Happy Grasshopper interact with Follow Up Boss?
Oh, I love Follow Up Boss. We have so many clients who use Follow Up Boss. It's a great platform. And we integrate via API. So you can drop your Follow Up Boss API key inside your LCA Nurture account or your Happy Grasshopper account. And that's going to connect our two services together. Now, I've been talking with Ricardo and Dan at Follow Up Boss about scheduling a webinar here in the near future, because we've just updated our API. So if you're listening to this and you're a longtime Happy Grasshopper and Follow Up Boss client, there's a lot more that's possible in the system now than was just a few weeks ago. So that's pretty exciting.
Great. So I know we only have a few minutes left, but just in regards to a question to follow on to that for others listening that aren't on Follow Up Boss, what other integrations do you have? And then when you talked about the difference between a relationship and a contact. And a lot of us out there have, thousands and thousands, or possibly even 50,000 or 100,000 plus contacts in our database. How do we sort which one should go to Happy Grasshopper and get your messaging? And within that, for instance, Follow Up Boss or one of the other types of CRMs, is there a way to do that where it's tagged so Happy Grasshopper through the API knows to pull it?
Absolutely, there is. So I'm going to stay high level here. I want to zoom out on this because, when a database gets large, it gets complicated.
Yes.
And oh my gosh, what about this tag and that tag and the other? And pretty soon it's just, it's a headache, and you just let it go, right? You must understand your database is incredibly valuable, and it does not need to be as complicated as you think it does. There are two kinds of people on planet Earth. They know us and they don't, right? So all those old leads that you didn't transact with, they don't know who you are, and yet they have to live somewhere, right? So you don't need to send them the sort of content I've shared with you today. That content goes to people who know you, your past clients, your sphere of influence, those folks who'd say hi at the grocery store. They need content that's less focused on real estate and more focused on just starting conversations and building relationships with them. So I know we're close on time, but I'm going to give everybody a pro tip here, what to do with those tons and tons of old dead leads, right? It's called a re-engagement message. And we did a session on LabCoatAgents about this in October. So you can go back and you can watch that session on YouTube. It's reactivating your zombie leads, right? There's a whole bunch of scripts that are used there, both for text and for email, and even for ringless voicemail drop that can breathe new life into those old dead leads. And some of my favorite stories over the years, we've got people who find 17 transactions from one send. I mean, just amazing. That's Brent Daly. If you're watching, Brent, hi, buddy. So I hope that helps.
Excellent.
Okay. Awesome. So I love seeing all the way people participated in the chat here. Thank you, Cindy and Carla. Love that you're engaging this because, again, it's easy to get started, to have some intentions. The challenge is really in following through. So, this isn't uber complicated. It's two sets of just 3 questions. Simply get quiet. Ask yourself, what did I do well? What did I struggle with? What did I fail at? And then ask yourself, how can I spend more time doing what I did well? How can I get help for the things I struggled with? And how can I avoid failing at the things I failed at again, right? Very simple process to get you focused and turned inward. And that empowers you to take proactive steps forward, correcting your course as you go from where you're starting your goal to where you've actually achieved it. And I would strongly encourage you to make LCA Nurture part of that journey. If I can personally help anyone who's available or who's attended today's session, just reach out to me. You can find me on Facebook or dan@happygrasshopper.com. So thank you, Alex, for having me today. It's awesome. Good to see you.
Thank you. It's great, an honor to be here with you. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody that's watching, and stay tuned for more of LabCoatAgents, amazing guests and webinars.
Awesome. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year to you.
Bye.
Bye.